A new law allowing chaplains as school counselors prompts concerns from LGBTQ advocates. You're listening to The Wrap from 90.7 WMFE News. I'm Brendan Byrne. A bill awaiting Governor Ron DeSantis' signature would make it legal for chaplains to volunteer as counselors in K-12 schools in Florida. Under the bill, these chaplains would not need to have any kind of training. The only requirement would be a state background check. Rollins College graduate counseling professor Catherine Norseworthy says she's worried untrained chaplains acting as counselors would do more harm than good.
The process itself, if it's not done effectively, it's sort of like pouring fuel on the fire.
That's ahead on The Wrap, the big stories this week from 90.7 WMFE News. But first, these headlines. Orlando District 5 Commissioner Regina Hill was arrested Thursday morning after an indictment by a grand jury on 7 charges, including elderly abuse and fraud. Hill pleaded not guilty at a hearing Thursday afternoon. WMFE's Marion Summerall has more.
Hill's arrest comes amid a year-long Florida Department of Law Enforcement investigation alleging the mistreatment by Hill of a 96-year-old constituent. The probe found that Hill obtained power of attorney and spent more than $100,000 of the woman's money on herself. John Vecchia is the special agent in charge for the FDLE Orlando region.
Hill took advantage of one of the community's most vulnerable citizens and one of her constituents by obtaining and later using the victim's personal information and financial funds for her own benefit.
In a statement, the city of Orlando says it does not have the authority to discipline or suspend an elected official. That power lies with the governor. Should that happen, the city is prepared to hold a special election to fill the vacant seat. Marion Summerall, 90.7 WMFE News.
Allies of Governor Florida Ron DeSantis and Disney have reached a settlement agreement in a state court fight over how Walt Disney World is developed in the future. It follows the takeover of the theme park resort's government by the Florida governor. In a meeting Wednesday morning, the DeSantis appointed members of the board of Central Florida Tourism Oversight District approved the settlement agreement, ending almost 2 years of litigation that was sparked by DeSantis' takeover of the district from Disney supporters. The two parties agreed to work together in developing the theme park's future. The takeover was a result of the company's opposition to Florida's parental rights and education bill, which critics have called the Don't Say Gay law. Florida has banned social media use for some minors. The move comes amid concerns about mental health and safety online. WFSU's Lynn Hatter reports social media companies say they'll sue.
Under the law, accounts held by kids under 15 without parental consent would be terminated, and only children between 14 and 15 could have access to social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat with parental approval. Those under 13 would be banned completely. Social media companies are threatening to sue and say the law violates free speech rights. House Speaker Paul Renner, the law's champion, is confident it'll be upheld.
Florida will lead the way, as we have often done, because of the way we have structured this bill in a way that will withstand federal scrutiny in the federal courts on First Amendment grounds, because we focus not on content but on the addictive technology.
The law is an amended version of a bill vetoed earlier this month over parental rights concerns. The new law goes into effect in January. I'm Lynn Hatter.
Disney's proposal for a 1,400-unit affordable housing project is headed to Tallahassee for state approval after Orange County commissioners passed a motion earlier this week. Dozens of residents spoke during public comment. Proponents say the development will bring much-needed affordable housing to the district, but some are worried the new development will strain neighboring communities and infrastructure. District 1 Commissioner Nicole Wilson says her constituents are worried the area cannot handle so many new residents. She says their concerns are valid.
We are not in a position to put more human beings in an area that isn't ready for them. I think we have this perception that affordable housing is the goal, and yes, it should be affordable, but it should also come with all the things we need for it to be successful.
Concerned constituents will have another chance to speak up when the proposal comes back to the county to be adopted as an ordinance. These stories and more on our website. Visit WMFE.org. As we close out Women's History Month, WMFE's Marion Summerall profiles one veteran female astronaut's efforts to inspire new explorers.
You see those kids that are dressed in the flight suits, and they have the same dream. And you realize, yeah, I am here to nurture that dream, to encourage it, to put a little water on the seeds.
That's on our website. Visit WMFE.org. A bill awaiting Governor Ron DeSantis' signature would allow chaplains to act as school counselors in Florida's K-12 schools. But as WMFE's education reporter Danielle Pryor explains, some LGBTQ advocates have questions about whether having clergy act as counselors will do more harm than good.
At the age of 30, Bobby Ermita is living a life he couldn't have imagined 10 years ago.
I got sober and clean at 24, and this year will be 6 years of sobriety and clean time. I've been able to pick up my pieces and reclaim my story at an early age. And I never thought that I would walk into 30 saying that I'd be sober and clean.
Ermita says he was able to get clean thanks to the counseling he received at Zebra Youth, a nonprofit that provides housing support and counseling for at-risk LGBTQ teens.
You know, I have stable housing, I have a job, I have options. I'm looking at going back to school. I sit on the board of directors here. I have a lot of great things headed my way. And so it's just opportunities after opportunity.
Ermita is one of Zebra Youth's greatest success stories, according to director Heather Wilkie. She says she appreciates the support of people who put up LGBTQ or trans pride flags, but doing the actual work and walking with someone who, for example, is transitioning takes much more.
But beyond that, how do you create a treatment plan for that? How do we work around that with compassion?
Wilkie says that's why she's worried about legislation awaiting the governor's signature that would allow chaplains to act as school counselors. School counselors can provide a range of services, from help choosing classes to mental health counseling. The State Department of Education requires school counselors to have at least a master's degree in counseling and 600 hours at a supervised internship. Under the bill, chaplains would only need to pass a background check. No additional training would be required. But Catherine Norsworthy says specialized training is needed. She runs Rollins College's graduate counseling program.
The process itself, if it's not done effectively, it's sort of like pouring fuel on the fire, and the kid actually can become even more dysregulated and have even more issues to contend with if they're not engaged with in a way that is sensitive to what is needed in that situation.
Supporters of the bill say it's needed to address a statewide counselor shortage. The American School Counselor Association recommends one school counselor per 250 children. In Florida, there's one counselor per 436. While supporters of the bill, like Mom Marianne Fisher, who spoke in a Senate committee hearing about the bill, say some students don't respond well to traditional guidance counseling.
I think this is a great bill because it supports children, and anything that can bring down the level of violence within the schools and the disruption in the school environment, the anxiety that children have. Some children don't respond to guidance counselors.
Fisher says her daughter, who's 17 and has a traumatic brain injury and PTSD from a fire, only responds to prayer.
One thing that helps her in school is if I can ask the teacher, can you ask her to say a prayer? That will help her to calm down. She overreacts to things because of things that happened when she was a baby.
According to the American Civil Liberties Union, 13 states across the country are considering similar legislation this year. Danielle Pryor, 90.7 WMFE News.
That's it for the wrap this week, but stay listening. Next week, Ukrainian amputees are in line to come to the U.S. and receive prosthetic ligaments. The line keeps getting longer, but resources and interest in the war are diminishing. WMFE's Joe Mario Pedersen brings us the story of how people here in Central Florida are helping that cause. This podcast is produced by 90.7 WMFE News with assistance from News Director Latoya Dennis and Digital Director Ryan Ellison. I'm Brendan Byrne. This is The Wrap.